Hi everybody, page 205 is where we're going to be. Last time we were talking about the age of the Puritans, which was like the 1600s. This is a time where King James was taking a bit more power for himself. He was trying to limit the Parliament and give himself more power, and then his son King Charles I did the same, limited Parliament, took even more power for himself, and so he ended up getting removed and executed by the rebels, essentially, the parliamentarians who wanted Parliament, or sometimes called the Roundheads, and they removed him and executed him. Put their own guy in place, their leader, Oliver Cromwell, but he wasn't very good either. But anyway, what we're going to focus on today is not monarchies, not kings and queens and rulers. We're going to focus on literature today and science, literature and science, what was going on in the background with the regular people while all of these leaders were rising to power. So on page 205, the Puritans of the 17th century England produced some of the most amazing works the world has ever known. Two Puritan writers are still widely read today. John Milton, a great poet, wrote Paradise Lost, which tells about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. John Bunyan, a poor tinker, mender of pots and pans, wrote many of the most beloved books of all times. Wrote one of the most beloved books of all time, Pilgrim's Progress. See, Pilgrim's Progress was a book about, it's a very straightforward book about this guy named Christian is walking along the path, and he's representative of a Christian, and he meets different people who represent different sins and everything. But these great works of literature that we still have today, that people still read today, were created there. The Puritans lived during the time that Galileo was making all his great discoveries about the heavens in Italy. And they were some of the first in the world to support his work. They started England's first scientific society, in an organization to study the new sciences and conduct experiments. Great English scientists during the 17th century included the following. We had Sir Isaac Newton, one of the greatest scientists of all time. I'd probably go Einstein and then Newton, myself personally. Said he discovered the law of gravity, but he didn't discover just that. He talked about universal gravitation. Newton has three laws of motion. He described inertia, which is an object at rest will remain at rest, and an object in motion will remain in motion in a straight line at constant speed as long as there's no forces acting on it. He talked about a force equals a mass times an acceleration, and he also talked about for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and then he also described gravity. Isaac Newton was pretty incredible. He also had contributions to calculus. He just was incredibly smart. Next, Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon did not invent bacon. He devised a scientific method of questioning, observation, question, hypothesis, stuff like that we use for science fair. Next is William Gilbert. Gilbert wrote the first English science textbook. William Harvey, he discovered how blood circulates through the body. Very important thing. It's something we don't think about. The heart pumps the blood through the body. We all know that. We don't really think about it, but before that, nobody knew. Robert Boyle, I wrote a biography of him. He's the father of modern chemistry. He discovered a lot of different things about different elements. Edmund Halley, the astronomer who predicted Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet is a comet that comes every 73 or 74 years. And it came when I was a kid, so it's not going to come for another, 50, 60 years, so you guys will probably be old when it comes. And Robert Hooke, the first man to see a living cell. I don't know if you remember reading about him. We read about him like in the very first lesson in science earlier in the year. He described what the cell was. And some of these great scientists were Puritans, and all of them had a great respect for the Bible. The Bible gave them the understanding they needed to look for the laws that God established for the world that He created. And science gave them one way to help others, as the Bible commands. Sir Isaac Newton, who was possibly the greatest scientist of all time, spent much of his time studying the Bible. So a lot of these guys, this is a time of, bickering back and forth with the Civil War, but it was also a time of great literature and great scientific discovery because people viewed the Bible as an important thing. All right, it was a short one today, but the next section is all about the Restoration, and I kind of want to leave that as its own video where King Charles II comes to the throne. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. Bye.